You might remember mission, vision, and values when you talk about your organization or for an organization, or maybe you remember it from an organization where you worked in the past. And most people remember it in pretty much the same way. They remember that they say, yeah, there was this poster in the elevator, mission, vision, values, something. Well, then I went back to work. And that's exactly the problem. Today, we have to talk about, is this whole aspect of mission, vision, values, is this just verbiage? Is it just a pile of expectations you have to fulfill? Or is it actually part of what you have to fulfill as a leader when you want to succeed? Many people are very frustrated about what they see when it comes to a mission, vision, and values. Often people don't even listen anymore. And this is often due to what they experienced in the past. We, of course, have to see that anyone has a past and we have to deal with that. So when we look into mission, vision, and values, many people are simply annoyed when they only get approached by the topic, and there's a reason. But first, when we look into the problem, then, of course, we're also going to look into how to do it better. Mission, vision, and values. First, what we have to see is that mission is why you're here. Vision is the outlook, a look into the future, and the values is how do you work? What are the values that led the actions of everyone and absolutely anyone in and around your organization, anyone you work with? So what are your non-negotiables? By the way, that topic of non-negotiables was approached by and published about by Paul Terwal, very well-known expert from the Netherlands, highly recommended here. We now have to look into how to do it better, because let's face it, at the moment, people are not in a good mood to talk about mission, vision, and values yet again. However, we have to approach it in a way and then see, is this part of what you have to do as a leader, part of where you have to engage as a leader, or is it something you can give away, or is it something where you can say, well, that is something we do not need anymore, or maybe you need it, but in a different way than it has been done in the past. So let's start with mission. The mission is the real reason. Why is your organization there? Why does it exist on this planet? And this is not only because you say, we produce bricks. Yeah, well, maybe that is a product that you have, but that is not your mission. So what is the service you have? How is it delivered to the client? How is it executed? What's the operative level of people who work in the field? What's the tactical level that is often not asked about anything in the organization? So what does the tactical level have to do with it? The strategic level often engages when it comes to presenting the whole mission, vision, and value aspect during huge meetings. However, this is not all about them. So what about the operational level? What about the tactical level? Which results do you actually contribute? What is your value? What is the benefit to work with you? And of course, what is the view of customers, of clients, of mandates, however, of patients, however you call the people you work with, depending on your industry? What is their view on your industry, on your organization, and on what you do for them? Because, and by the way, these are just some questions. You could ask way more questions. However, if you don't answer them, if you only say, we do X, and then you normally name a product, which has nothing to do or not much to do with the mission, if you do not define this well, people come to the conclusion where they say, well, we're here to make money. Full stop. I get a salary, someone else makes more money out of me, and then I go home and do whatever else. And this is why many people are not engaged. So defining the mission is very challenging. And already in the very first place here, you have to engage with absolutely anyone in your organization. We get back to that in due course of the other parts of this session. So talking about the vision, that is the outlook, talking about the future. And the most important aspect, especially today, is don't become ridiculous. Don't make a fool out of yourself. I just very recently sat in a large organization's main annual event, and the board of directors stood on stage and said, this is our vision of the year 2040. 2040, that is 20 years in the future. And then they told their opinion about the year 2040. And of course, no one takes you seriously when you do that, for a very good reason. The first aspect people will look at is that they say, let's look at board people or senior executives and leadership staff here. Do they normally stay for 20 years, maybe for 15 or even 10 or even shorter? Because you don't have to talk about 2040 when you're not here for at least 10 years to prepare everything to be ready for year 2040. No one's going to listen to you when they know you're going to leave every 2 to 4 years anyway on board level. So as soon as you talk about the future, you also need evidence, you need proof, you need science, you need a neutral expertise that gives you an outlook on the future, because otherwise people will think that is just something you want us to do. It's your personal opinion. However, it is not expertise. And to be crystal clear here, expertise means a neutral person gives you an outlook, not someone who is from a bunch of insider deal job positions, someone who is from your circle of friends, someone you know from a business club, someone you pay to say something, or some random mouth that normally calls them professional speaker or some nonsense equivalent to that. You need someone who has a neutral view, who is not connected with you or has any benefit out of what they say there. However, many leaders are not very open to these people. And the reason is very obvious, because these people, for example, especially in today's times with different generations leaving and entering the workspace or the workplace, different industries competing with each other, digitization or remote work, part of what neutral expertise will, for example, tell you is that you have to deal well with employees, you have to make them satisfied, because there's a talent shortage, and also remote work is expected by the vast majority of the people on the market, especially hybrid workplaces. According to the Gallup studies, 2/3 want a place which offers hybrid solutions. And when you don't want that, you suddenly are not very open to people who offer you solid evidence, and then you go by opinion. I can tell you, when you offer a vision and the vision has nothing to do with science, there's no proof, no evidence, it's just your opinion, things will go south from there. It will not go well. People will not listen to you. And especially people who know that the employee turnover on senior executive or leadership or board level is very high will not listen to you anyway. If you now want to be the person that starts the turnaround, you have to start with strong evidence. And evidence must be more than just your opinion. Because talking about the last aspect, values, these are the values where you have to see anyone in your organization is living by these values. And let's face it, often, especially values like respect, which normally goes without saying. Anyone deserves to be treated with respect until they behave in a way which makes it impossible to treat them with respect. However, when you want to implement values or you want to talk about values, you have to address when things went wrong in the past. And that does not mean that you go on stage and say, sorry for anyone where we didn't live up to the promise in the past. That is not enough. The offenders, the people who did it wrong, have to apologize to the people who they dealt with, because these people are either physically or mentally or both. In many ways, they have been compromised in their life. And you can't get away with someone saying sorry, moving on from here. So first, you have to deliver apologies when things went wrong in the past. And when there are serious acts of misconduct, people either must leave their position or the organization. And by the way, they don't leave it with a golden handshake and a bag full of money. When people did wrong, they have to leave. And the most important aspect of what you now heard so far, mission, vision, and especially values, is always a process that works bottom up, never top down. You can never face a moment. You must not face a moment where people say, oh, there was a project on mission, vision, and values. Oh, I have never been asked about that. I didn't even know this project was running. Then no one is going to listen. When you sit in your ivory tower and say, this is what we're going to do in the future, this is our mission, our vision, our values, and the marketing department does everything for us to make some nice slides around it, don't be surprised that no one's going to listen to you. No one is going to obey your orders. No one's going to follow you, which, by the way, makes you not a leader, but something like a general admin person on a very high salary. So the process, bottom up, means, of course, some people will now say, well, we have 50,000 employees, we can't ask everyone. Correct. And I fully agree with you here. When you are a large organization of a couple of thousand people or even many hundreds of people, then it's quite challenging to ask anyone. But with digital means, for example, you can do surveys. Then you have, for example, elected officials who speak in the name of certain groups or departments. And that is the bottom-up process you need to lead. And of course, marketing is part of the game, but marketing does not lead the game here. When you make the whole mission, vision, and values only about marketing, only about telling anyone out there that you're the greatest place on earth, while absolutely anyone knows, because especially since social media and digital means of communication, people know when things go wrong in organizations. Look on Glassdoor.com or Kununu when you're from Germany. or Austria or Switzerland, then you see when things go south, when things go wrong, people mention that on the internet and they can do so anonymously. That's the level of despair they reached. And despair means you treated them so badly that they have to do it anonymously because they fear the consequences. They address the issues most likely, but you just wildly were very far away from accepting the complaints and ignored the issues you saw. A mission, vision, and values process is always led from bottom up, and it's a lot of work. At the end, there's nothing wrong. As soon as you have a sustainable, correct, science-led result, there's nothing wrong with using marketing to promote your achievements. However, marketing does not replace the scientific effort. Because what we face right now, it is the end of the CEOs, it is the end of the executives, it is the end of the managers and leaders who simply show up at events, go through a bunch of slides, just flick through them, and then give a speech where they pretend they know what they're saying, but they're only reading out slides to others, which they probably have rehearsed a couple of hours before, but they don't even really know what's happening in the organization. These leaders are gone. Their time is over and they must be replaced immediately, because what you need right now, and this is, of course, we now have to get to a conclusion, because the question was, is the whole game of mission, vision, and values, is it part of leadership work? And yes, it absolutely is. A modern leader needs to master the whole aspects of mission, vision, and values. However, in a proper and sustainable way, which is based on proof, facts, evidence, and science, and not led by marketing, because people, especially today, have an interest in working for someone who really cares about them, about the organization, the products, the mission, the vision, the values, but especially about being sustainable in every single aspect of what drives the organization on the market. Of course, there's more. I published about this, so expert.nb-networks.com. When you go on expert.nb-networks.com, you can put your email address in there. Every week, Wednesday morning, you receive an email free of charge. You get all the access to everything that was published. The free access is only, because I received a couple of emails of people saying that there was a paywall. The free access is only available via email, so expert.nb-networks.com. When you now say, well, I still have some questions, I think I need to talk about a very specific case that I have. Happy to do so. Just drop me an email, nb@nb-networks.com, and then we can have a chat. If you want to talk about something very, very specific, training, speaking, coaching, consulting, mentoring, or project interim management, or where you say, hey, we have an event, can you host it or can you speak there? Of course I can. Just drop me an email. But we can also just have a chat, nb@nb-networks.com. Thank you very much for the great talks we had last week and the weeks before. And I also have to thank you for one more aspect, because we broke a record. The Leadership Podcast, for the very first time since it started, went top 10. We ranked 8 in Austria. It's the first time that we have a top 10 ranking. We also just did top 15 with ranked 14 in Ireland. Very competitive spaces with another top 50 ranking. I think it was in the UK. So we're doing very well, but top 10 never happened so far. It's a first in history for this podcast. I thank you very much. It's absolutely amazing to see the support, the discussions and talks we have. And even when we disagree, staying respectful, greatly appreciated. And while thanking you, I still have to remind you of one aspect. This podcast will only be continued on Spotify and Apple Podcast. If you listen to this on any other platform, this platform will not have any new episodes after this one. So be sure to follow us on Spotify, on Apple Podcasts, and then we take it from there. The most important aspect right now is to apply what you heard in this podcast, because only when you apply what you heard, you will see the change in the organization that you obviously want to see. I wish you all the best implementing these steps that you learned today in your organization. I'm always happy to help. And now there's only one thing for me left to say. Thank you very much for your time.